Guys, welcome back to Scavenger Life. The last time we talked was September 2015, so that was like 2.5 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah,
I know.
like so long ago.
And so just to catch people up, I mean, we'll link to your original conversation. You guys were in Chicago and you were selling, and the whole point of the conversation was Etsy, because we were like, who sells on Etsy? No one makes any money. And you guys reached out to us and were like, we make money on Etsy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you guys were focusing mainly on like 90s clothes.
Yeah.
Okay, now 2.5 years later, there were some trash shelves that were telling us that you guys had like opened up a brick and mortar store down in Austin, and then I tried to email you, and I think my email got lost in the mail, I guess. Let's talk about that. Why did you move to Austin and start a store?
So it was actually very strategic. So when we first talked to you in Chicago, we noticed that most of the things we were selling from our Etsy shop were like t-shirts and jeans. And we wanted to keep growing the business, and we wanted to open a brick and mortar like the whole time. So it just didn't really make sense with Chicago, the weather and the things that we were selling the most, for us to open a shop there at the time.
And real quick, and to be clear, you guys both have experience in retail stores, right?
Yeah, so we like understand all the like kind of the seasons that Chicago goes through for retail, and like how the slower seasons and kind of what moves and what's not moving throughout the year.
Yeah, because we were district managers at American Apparel, and we have like 14 years of retail experience between each other. So we like kind of understood how, the seasons go, how inventory management works for clothes. So
I can imagine you guys being the manager of these stores, and you have some power, but I bet you guys were like, God, if this is my store, this is how I would do it. And now,
yes.
And now it's possible.
So we wanted warmer weather, and LA was too expensive. So that's how we ended up with Austin.
And you guys know I'm from Texas, so I love Austin. I looked at where the store was, and I know that area very well. That's a cool part of town.
Thank you.
Yeah. The store's called what? Passport Vintage, right?
Yeah.
Is it in like an old house?
Yeah, it used to be a house before we moved in, and we changed it up.
Dude, that's so Austin. I love that. I mean, I remember even when I was a long time ago, when I was in college in the 90s, we'd go to Austin, and you'd go eat in a cafe in like this old house. It was great.
Yeah, it's actually somebody that used to live here follows Passport on Instagram, and when we showed that this was our new location, they were like, "I just moved out of there 2 months ago."
So there's a lot of questions here that I have. So number one, when you moved from Chicago to Austin, did you take all that inventory with you?
Yeah, we took mostly the things we left behind were like personal stuff, like furniture. We sold off a lot of our own furniture just so that we could make sure we had enough room for like all of our inventory. Like that was probably 70% of what we traveled down with was just all the inventory.
I love it. Yeah, because you can always buy a furniture and crap on Craigslist,
Exactly.
Yeah. And so it was like in a big U-Haul truck?
Well, I had a van at the time, like a cargo van. Mm-hmm. So I was doing deliveries around Austin. And so basically like the inventory filled up the entire cargo van. So we had to rent like one of those small cargo trailers.
Yep.
It's like a 5x6, and that's where our personal stuff was in. The much smaller like part of the trip travel.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming that was pretty crazy. You kind of are underplaying it a little bit.
Oh, it was an awful trip.
Yeah, it was.
It was awful.
Why?
The drive was so long, and my van, like, the brakes are kind of like hard. Well, they were hard, and like so I was the only one who could drive. Like Maria tried driving, she's like, I can't like push these brakes down, and I was used to it, so it wasn't no big deal for me. So like, but we took our time. Like we made it a 3-day trip because I'm from Oklahoma, so we stopped in Oklahoma for a night, and then we stopped in Dallas because my dad lives in Dallas, and then we eventually made our way to Austin. So it was just long.
And did you guys already have like a place in mind in Austin? Like, was it all figured out, or just show up and do it?
For the store or for our house?
Well, for everything. I mean, like, how much planning did you guys do? And did you have to take the store offline? Did you have a bunch of money saved up?
Actually, we planned for about 1.5 years, and our friends were like, are you guys still moving to Austin? Like they started believing that we weren't. So we planned for a year and a half. We saved like $5,500.
Wow.
We flew in, we got a rental house, and we put the store on, not on vacation, but like on long shipping times.
Yeah, it was like 2 weeks basically.
Yeah. And yeah, we had no intention of like actually opening a brick and mortar as soon as we did. We were just going to do like...
Yeah, the actual plan was like, okay, let's move here. Let's see what it's like. Maybe we'll, try to do some pop-ups because we know those are really big around Austin. And maybe after a year or two, then we'll think, we'll know the area and we'll open up a shop. And then it was literally 3 months after living here, the opportunity came up and we just went for it.
Now, being a managers at like a national retail store, did you guys ever have anything to do with rents and leases? Like, had that all been a new thing to you?
I was a district manager, so we got the profit and loss for each store, and I oversaw at one point 14 stores, so I had like a total idea of how much rent cost. I never like negotiated any lease, but I definitely knew like the lease, how much it costs and lease terms and, the profitability of each store. So that really helped when we opened up this store, because I can go back in my mind now and think of old American Apparel stores and compare our store to their store, to that store. So it really helped.
So, we've never done this before. So how does that work? Do you go through a broker or just go on Craigslist and try and find a business that you can rent?
The first store we had was a shared space, and we like did a sublease from that person. So that was like the first year and a half. And now that we have our own space on South First, what we did is I found a commercial realtor, and then she showed us, kept showing us a ton of spaces, and we just went as if we were like renting a house, but it was like a retail space. And it took forever because everything in Austin kept being rented.
Yeah, everything was going so fast. Like we'd look at the space and then literally the next day when we'd tell them like, yeah, we want it. Or even the same day, like, oh, it's already gone.
Yeah. Okay. So, I mean, I'll let you choose how specific you want to get on numbers, but like how long of a lease do you have to sign and how much do you have to put down, like first and last months and that kind of thing?
Actually, we got really, really lucky with this space that our realtor, I found our realtor through our bookkeeper. So she had a reference, and she is like an old Austin realtor. So she kind of like fought a lot with the space that we chose, and she came to give us like a month for free and lower our deposit. But yeah, it was like first month and then a deposit, and that was it. And we signed a short-term lease for just a year, but we definitely want to extend.
Yeah.
Cool. So it's not like at the end of 12 months, the owner can pump the price up? Is it like you can keep on it going at that same rate?
I think that they can pump the price up, but so we'll see. I mean, it was the only thing that we could get in Austin because it really was crazy.
Yeah. Again, it seems like in this day and age, everyone's like, forget getting a store, just put everything online. And, you hear online stores are killing retail. So what was the reason? Like, is it the community aspect? Like, why have a brick and mortar store?
We totally get the online aspect of it. And that's like how I think, definitely. And I think that the brick and mortar was just to have another income stream. But once we opened the brick and mortar, the community aspect became like huge for us. And we just like met so many people and got really connected in the city. And that actually really helped.
Yeah. And I think for us opening the brick and mortar, like for the first opportunity we had for like the shared space, it was like, we really thought over it and it seemed low risk. So that's why we also did it. So like, let's do it. Like, how many opportunities like this are going to come up? We should take it while we can. And we're only in there for a year and a half. So it's not like we're stuck into a really long lease if things don't work out. But yeah. And then like Maria said, like it just really grew like from there. Like we really felt like more part of like the Austin community and like also just our community like online because so many of them come through Austin. that they come to the shop, and it was just like really interesting to see the way that all developed.
So I do want to talk about the social aspects of it, but I know there are people hearing this who, sell online, and they're like, I wish I could get a store, because then basically I'm paying rent to have my storage, and then I can actually sell some of the stuff, without having to actually put it online and all the work that takes. So, I mean, when you say it's not a big risk, I don't know. Is that really true? I mean, it seems like there's a lot of cost involved. The rent, the bills. I don't know. You got to get insurance. Do you have employees? Like that kind of thing.
We subscribe to like your guys' way of doing things, where it has to be very low risk and it has to be very cheap.
Right. Yep.
Our first space, our rent was $1,300, and
real quick, that was just like buying a space in an already existing vintage shop, that kind of thing.
No, it was a jewelry shop that had kind of like two spaces within one. So we rented one space from there. It did seem low risk to us because it was basically the risk that we were taking at the time was the rent.
Yeah.
Because they took care of everything else, like the insurance and, all of that stuff. So we were like, for $1,300 a month, like for a year and a half, we are willing to try it. That was what the risk was at the time.
Going on that same train of thought, do you guys have employees, or you guys are the employees?
Well, yeah, we've had several employees throughout the past like 2.5 years, and now we have one sales associate, and then we just hired on another employee, so we have 2 employees.
Now, are they in charge of the store, or are you there every day doing stuff?
No, we're definitely here every single day.
Yeah, even when they don't work very much, maybe like 1-2 days. Even on those days, we're usually in and out of the store.
Good.
Because our space now actually has we have an office that we can work from, so it's nice being able to just come here, get some work done. So it's not always just like being at home.
It seems like a local business in our small town that fails, and most of them do fail, it's because they open up these businesses and then they hire people to just be there all day, and they're never there. So the business doesn't have a feeling, it doesn't have any kind of culture to it, and then the people there don't give a crap, so it just fails,
Yeah.
I think we both just really enjoy like being at the shop, and we're really productive when we're here, now that we have our own workspace here, and just I think it's kind of like the difference for sure.
And the most important thing, so you guys enjoy people?
Yes.
Yeah.
Good. Okay. Because I think that's probably a big part of it, right? People come in and, you got to say hi to them. And
yeah. And we get a lot of people come in and they want to talk to Ryan and I specifically. So we're always on.
Now, why? Okay. You've kind of mentioned that. That's kind of interesting. So you have like a following on Instagram, and people follow you and then they want to talk to you?
Yeah. So we have a pretty big Instagram following, which we grew strategically to help. Because that's like our marketing, how we market the storefront.
Yep.
So we, especially during South by, like we have so many people from LA or New York or wherever coming into town, and they always come into the store. And
that's so interesting to me. So what do they want to know? I mean, they're like, you sell clothes, like, hey, like what are they?
Part of it is like they see what we have on Instagram and like in our shop, and they want to, because our main thing is jeans, like vintage Levi's.
Yep.
So they want to like come in and they want to like try them on, because they see them,
wow,
but they can't try them on. So they this is their opportunity to come in and do that. And then also a part of it is because a lot of other like resellers, like Etsy sellers, follow us as well, and they'll come in like, I've been like following your Etsy for like since you guys started, or like for 3 years, and they'll want to talk shop a little bit.
We've even had people that come in and they said that they've listened to our Scavenger podcast.
Yeah. Get out of here!
Wow. Yeah.
So,
cool.
Really
all
funny.
types. Because even people who have like bought from us like Etsy, like when we were still in Chicago, like, oh, I bought this when you guys still lived in Chicago, and I was like, well, that's weird that you knew that we still lived in Chicago. But yeah, and then they'll like, I live in Austin now, and like I want to come see your shop.
Yeah, cool. I was kind of asking that in a suspicious way, but I think the bigger point is, and I totally agree, that just in this day and age, people want to kind of have like a personal connection to what they're buying, and that experience is not very common these days,
Yeah, so that's why we're like, you definitely have to be comfortable with like people knowing a lot about you.
Yep.
So like once you accept that, if you do, then yeah, people really want to connect.
Yeah.
Like that's something that we've really noticed. I think especially because we definitely felt that when we worked from home in Chicago in the winter and like we were just cooped up, and we just wish, you know, that I don't know, sometimes we could go to a place that understood us when it came to like reselling and stuff. And
so yeah, when other resellers come in, they're like, oh, like I do this or that, or like, you know, like I said, we can talk shop for a little bit and see what they do and follow each other on Instagram, basically.
Okay, so I have some questions about how you guys do the store. So number one, who are your competitors in town? Because are there more and more vintage stores that are dealing more with like 90s stuff, or is it still a vintage, like the 60s kind of stuff?
So I feel like, so Austin is a big vintage town, and I feel like we're really unique here. So there's like the vintage shops that are just like the everything shops. There are the shops that are like the 60s, like boho shops. And then there's like the streetwear shops.
Yeah, it's like more 90s.
More 90s. Actually, we pivoted so that we sell everything, but we focus a lot on vintage jeans.
Yep.
And that's how we've like really stood out. So we don't really have any like, I mean, we do have competitors, but nobody that's like exactly like us.
What's unique about Austin too is in the vintage community, like for the shops, a lot of like shops reference each other to other to the customers. I tell customers who are looking for something about other shops, and because we get a lot of customers who come in and like, oh, how'd you find out about the shop? And they'll be like, oh, I was at this store and they told me to come here. Yeah. And like so often that happens. So I feel like we don't really like we have any competitors with what we do specifically. Also, everyone's out there kind of like helping each other and like let everyone know about the other shops.
I think that's good. I think on the smaller, like small, it's business people, I think are really willing to help. I guess the cutthroat stuff starts happening at the larger corporate level where they start trying to crush each other.
Yeah, because there's a really popular thing in Austin. It's like a flyer that all of the vintage shops subscribe to. And basically it's like all the vintage shops in one flyer, and all the shops carry that flyer. So we hand it out to customers so that they have like a vintage map.
Yeah.
Cool.
It's called Austin Vintage Map.
Yeah, it's called like Austin Vintage Map.
Okay, so you guys have talked about that you're now kind of focusing on jeans. I mean, are you specifically just doing that, or is that just a main part of the store now?
I'd say like it's definitely like 60% of what we do, because our main focus is vintage jeans, like specifically Levi's, and then also vintage T-shirts. Mm-hmm. And then we also carry some other stuff, but like that's definitely like the majority of the store. And
so where are you finding these jeans? Because I know people like Scavengers, they talk about that all the time. What is it, the gray label or the red label? Or, you know, I mean, when we go to thrift stores, I'm like, it all looks the same to me. I don't know, you know. So
it's like, cause I've kind of become doing most of the buying. I do probably 90% of the buying for the shop. And just over time, like being out there, and also I think us having a shop and going around, like I've kind of bumped into people and they've been like, oh, I sell this, or like I do this. I also like do wholesale, or, you know, being in Texas, I have people who come in town and they're like, oh, I live in West Texas, but I come in every once in a while and I bring what I find. So it's so much of that, and just like other vendors that I've met that have been able to just I have like a network of sources now. And that's really where we get a lot of the vintage Levi's. And I wouldn't say that like, because obviously like some really serious like Levi's collectors and sellers, but that's not really our like realm, I'd say, our world. Like we're more interested just like the vintage Levi's that are fashionable and on trend right now and like moving. Like,
yeah. So, you know, it's not like a Levi's from like the 1920s that they're pulling out of like gold mines. These are.
Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha. I can hear other scavengers who are thinking this. If I have a brick and mortar store, then I could basically get inventory. Do people bring you bags of clothes to try and trade or sell?
We do, but so like our store is super, we really made it like super boutique-y. So we don't usually buy from, like, we don't let people just come in and bring their stuff.
Why not?
I don't know. I just think it's a bit too much. Yeah.
It can be just a bit much. And then like, so I prefer to do it. Like if they call and they ask if we buy, I'm like, oh, well, send me some photos of what you have. And I can tell you also just to like save them time.
Yeah. Because I bet people are bringing you a bunch of junk, right? So you're like, I don't want that stuff.
Anything. And like, yeah. So a lot of times I just tell them like, if you can send me some photos, like you don't have, just just of like the whole pile, like I can just look over it real quick and I can tell you like, okay, this is what I'd be interested in.
Right.
And then like it's so easy to do that type of thing over the phone.
Yeah.
Like text and like, or even on Instagram, because sometimes I'll get messages on there about buying. It saves them time from like having to come in and be like, oh, well, you know, you didn't buy any of my stuff, and like they leave disappointed.
Yeah, it can be like people sometimes don't trust us when we're like, no, we only buy these sizes or we only buy these specific things, and they're like, oh no, but this really sells, and it's like, no, like go away.
I mean, I bet that could be uncomfortable if people bring you like the clothes that they think are cool, and you're basically having to tell them, yo, they aren't cool. I don't want them.
That happens all the time. That's why we had to make it very like.
At first, people were just showing up randomly and just like, okay, it feels bad, like telling them like, I don't want any of your stuff. Like it's not a good feeling like for either person.
Now, have you guys ever thought about putting out it's like a box up front, like a donation box, and just let people donate stuff and then just pick through it?
Actually, that's a good idea. No, we never thought about it. Yeah. It's not like that we don't want the stuff. We do. It's just like, sometimes it just gets too awkward. And then if we have customers here that are willing to pay us, I mean, that they're shopping, it kind of like ruins their shopping experience. So.
Yeah, sure. No, I mean, I can imagine that would be very uncomfortable because people always think it's what they have is so much cooler than it actually is.
Yeah.
When you're at work, are you also taking photos for online all day long?
That has actually it's something that we're working on because being at the shop and manning the sales floor, it takes up a lot of our time. So we do the photos either before or after the store is open. And then while we're at the store, we mostly do listing.
Yeah, I mean, because that is kind of an attractive thing about having a store. Is it's like you said, it's more like your place of work that people just happen to be able to come in on. So it'd be like us just letting people come into our warehouse place just to shop while we're doing work.
Actually, our store is also really small, so I really wish that we could have like an area specifically for photos, but we don't. So that's why we do photos. We do photos on the sales floor while the store is closed, and then we do our listings when customers are coming in and out.
And when do you ship? From home or from the store?
We ship from the store. I mean, we just ship like all day. It's so easy because most of the inventory is here. It's rare now that like something is not here that we're selling. So yeah, we can just jump in the office or print out the label while we're on the sales floor and just ship it real quick.
Okay, I got so many questions here. What percentage of your sales are Etsy versus in-store sales?
So I think that now it's about 30% Etsy, 70% store.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah. I mean, are you ever going to not be online or is that an important part of the...
That's super important because that's how we get people that out-of-towners that want to visit the shop. We get a lot of tourists.
That's so amazing. That's so awesome.
And we make a lot of sales like from... Like Instagram drives a lot of our Etsy sales.
Okay.
So it's great for the Instagram followers to be able to they do have the opportunity to buy the stuff we're posting through our Etsy. So
yeah.
Now, are you those kind of people who sell on Instagram itself? Like
we
kind of.
Yes and no. We have sold exclusively on Instagram, but now we just do where we link everything that we post on Instagram to our Etsy shop.
Now, why is that? Because people will come on our forums and they'll be like, all the cool kids are selling on Instagram and they're so cool. Like, why don't you guys do that?
I think it helps us keep things organized. Like, it's all through Etsy. And then, sometimes what we will do, because we use Square in the shop to, process all the sales, we'll send a Square invoice. We'll, through Instagram, they're like, okay, just give us your email and we'll send you a Square invoice. So we either like to keep it through Square or through Etsy.
Yeah. See, it seems to me people that, sell on Facebook, on Instagram, it just seems like too much work. Like, okay, who emailed me and then I got to send this to this person and then I got to figure this out. It's just put it through eBay or, another site, and I feel like that's the way to keep it organized.
100%. Yeah. Because sometimes we have something that we sell on Instagram exclusively and it just gets a little too crazy. I mean, it sounds stupid, but it's true. It's better.
How does that work? So you guys are like, okay, here's a coat up for sale, the first person that messages me wins, and then do people get mad? Like, I thought I did it first, blah.
Yeah. So like we'll send them, so we'll get the information, we'll send them an invoice, and then we'll say, okay, you have an hour to pay. But in that time, then other people are like, I want to buy it. And then that one person, they don't pay. So then you have to keep following up with them, like, hey, are you going to pay this invoice?
Right.
And then they ghost. So then you send it to the other person.
And
so
then the first person is like, wait, I had a doctor's appointment. You screwed me.
Yeah, that has happened actually a lot. And it's also cool.
Yeah. So I'm missing out by not being on Instagram exclusively then.
No,
I wouldn't say so.
No.
Yeah.
So now what we do is we just link it to Etsy and let people fight it out.
Right.
So whoever gets to it first gets to it first.
There you go. Capitalism.
Yeah.
So all the stuff that's in the store right now, is it also online?
No.
How
I'd
much
say
of it's online?
What do you say? Only maybe like 40%.
Oh,
Yeah.
Even that, like, yeah, we
That's a
a lot of times, we bring a lot of stuff into the store, and sometimes it just sells before we even get a chance to put it online,
Right.
which is like great. So the one good part about having the store is like it's a little less work. You did the work to wash it and then bring it in the shop, and then I don't have time to shoot it because it just sold. So
See, everyone hearing is this, like, that's their dream. Like, they can buy it, put it out on, a shelf, and it gets bought, and they don't have to list it, take photos, ship it, any of that stuff. Now, is it hard to manage inventory if your stuff is mixed up? Like, how do you deal with that?
we usually use like little inventory codes for jeans. I mean, for like the t-shirts and everything else, it's easier because graphic on a t-shirt, you're not gonna have a lot of those. It's easy to find. It's only with the jeans that we keep things like each one that we list has an inventory code, so we can find that exact pair. And we haven't really had too many issues with like inventory. It's been, plus like everything is kind of hung up and out on the floor for the most part, so it makes it easy to find as well.
I mean, it seems like, because I looked at the way you guys do the business, so you're there every day but Tuesday, and you're open from 10 to 6? Oh, no.
7.
7 o'clock. I mean, those are great hours, so you can kind of sleep late and get stuff done in the morning, and then work till the early evening when people are still getting off of work and still want to shop. It's real smart.
Thanks, Jay.
Yeah, no, I mean, because we have so many businesses like in our town where they open at like 9 o'clock, they close right at 5, and it's like, it's so ridiculous. It's like, this is why you guys are getting killed by the online stores, because you aren't open, Yeah.
Plus, I think like most of the shops like ours, even like non-vintage ones in Austin, they don't open till 11. Like most of them, even some of them open at noon, and just like, just the time the town kind of starts around for retail.
So is that difficult to then work on Saturdays and Sundays?
No.
I haven't really found it.
We this has been like our life with retail, just working retail forever. So it doesn't really.
Yeah, Saturdays and like I don't think I've ever really had a weekend.
Yeah, I hear you. We're the same way. So how do you like Austin? Like, what's the closest taco truck to Passport?
So many.
We're
2
literally
blocks?
like 4 around,
All
within a
right.
block.
That's awesome. I mean, let's kind of talk about the social part. I mean, anyone that doesn't know Austin, Texas, it's super awesome because, I mean, really it is, because it's like Texas is such a crazy state, but Austin is like where all the weirdos go, and it's great.
Yeah.
And it used to be relatively cheap. It's not so cheap now, but it's still cheaper than a lot of places in America. It's got a lot of young people. So let's talk about the social part. Don't you guys do like an event every month? Is that right?
Actually, it's 2 to 3 times a year,
Okay.
and it's called Laissez-Faire, and it's a big vintage market. We partner up with Urban Outfitters,
Really?
and we have in Peaceology Vintage. She's one of the other organizers, and we have 20 plus vintage vendors. So all the little vintage vendors, the online sellers, they participate, and it's like a big vintage market because when we moved to Austin, there's a big culture of like pop-ups here, but there wasn't one for just vintage. It's like a lot of like hand makers and like handcrafted stuff. So there's like the big, Austin citywide garage sale. That's like a big thing that happens every month, but we decided to do like a vintage, like a curated pop-up. And that's how we met so many other vintage vendors in Austin through doing that market.
Yeah, I mean, see, I think that's something that Ryan, as my partner's always talked about, is like she just dreams of doing is like an actual event in our town. But I always tell her like, I'm just like, is it worth all the work to like? I'm sure it takes a lot of work to like organize it, get all your stuff there.
It's a lot of work. We don't make money off of like organizing the event. We make money on when we're selling, our clothes at the event.
Yep.
So it's kind of like we're doing it for kind of the community aspect of it, which
and the marketing aspect.
So
like, because we do get a lot of people after each laissez-faire that then come to our shop and are like, oh, I saw you guys at laissez-faire, and I want to come check out your store. And like, a lot of people that come through, because the last one we had 1,500 plus people come through, because we had counters at the doorways, and so like so many people there. Some of them knew who we were and knew our shop, and then a whole other group like didn't know who we were, and they got to like find out about us and find out that we're in Austin and have a store over on South First and all this other stuff.
And then you guys just went to South by at Southwest, for people who don't know, is a big conference event that kind of takes over the whole town. What did you guys do there? Just to enjoy it, or part of your business?
No, actually, so South by Southwest has a marketplace aspect, and last year we were part of the marketplace, but this year we were just open at our storefront, which is like more in the central area, and it was just like super busy. So
After last year, we decided like, let's not do any pop-ups or events. Let's just focus on the store and let's just be here, because it's our first year doing South by at this location too. So, and last year was just like
it was a lot.
It was a lot of work, and it was stressful, and it's hard to say if it was like worth it or not, 'cause part of it was and part of it wasn't.
Yeah, it wasn't really worth it.
Just didn't want to deal with the stress again, mostly.
I want to go back to the store itself. So I'm imagining people are like, wow, I want to have a business. Okay. I feel like so many vintage stores, they start shoving stuff in every single nook and cranny, and it just becomes, which I kind of enjoy because it's just so crazy, and I can get stuff for cheap normally. You guys don't seem to do that. How do you stop yourself from just stuffing the store with stuff? Like
the store you described, like, I love that kind of store too. Like, I love digging around and like seeing what I'm going to find. But I also like really appreciate a store that's kind of the way we did ours, where it's, very organized and clean, and like everything, exactly, like we put everything in size order. It's just like, it's easy to shop.
Yep.
And we also like keep it very specific to what we're selling, and like we just like, it's only stuff like a lot of times when I'm doing the buying, like I buy stuff that like I really would want to see in a shop. I try not to buy like kind of filler stuff, if you know what I mean. Like,
oh yeah. And
that's like, I try to make like my ideal shop and like what I would want to see. And like when you go in there and like, it's like everything you see is like, I want all of this. And then, so instead of like having to search and dig, and because that can be exhausting too. And it's just like,
yeah. Well, I mean, the kind of shops that are like crazy and stuff is everywhere, I expect that stuff to be cheap.
Yeah,
that's the other thing.
When people spend time, it's curating, they're doing a really good job, they're helping me find the right size, I'll pay up for that kind of service.
Yeah, and that's what we try to do. We try to have a very like boutique feel to our shop.
Now, do you guys have, I don't want to say fights, but how do you talk about what goes in the store? I mean, like I'm tired of selling just jeans. Why don't we start selling shoes? Or
I think because we have a very divided responsibility. So I honestly, like, believe it or not, I got tired of buying. Like, I don't care anymore. I know it sounds crazy, but I don't care. And like, that's Ryan's department. So he can just do whatever he wants. And I like doing like what I like doing. So like, I like doing the accounting, and I like doing the marketing and that kind of stuff. So.
Okay. So then you're the one putting stuff on Instagram and that kind of stuff? Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, so it's pretty easy that way. I mean, like, I feel like we have it's almost like formulaic on like how our store is set up now. Mm-hmm. So it kind of like, it allows me to like, makes the buying easier for me. And like, there's certain things, if I'm unsure about things that I like, I just send a photo to Maria if I'm out, or ask her like, what do you think of this? Because a lot of our we have a large like female customer base. and I do rely on Maria to like, keep me up to date on like basically some of the trends that are going on or like what's in style for like women.
Right.
And from there, like once she shows me, like, okay, I get it. And then that's kind of how I shop. I think also with us just mostly focusing on vintage Levi's and vintage tees, it makes it very easy to like what we put in the store.
Now, this brings up two things. Number one is, did those kind of like when you guys picked what each of you were going to do, had that been a natural thing, or did you guys talk about that?
I love reading like business books, and I read this book called The Purple Cow by, well, his name is totally escaping me.
Seth Godin.
Okay, yep.
It basically like it just tells you, you know, like what's different about you, what's special. And at the time, this is when I only had Etsy. I was trying to find vintage jeans for myself, and I could never find it. So I started to put more of a focus on that in my Etsy, and I noticed that just being like having one thing that I specialized in or one thing that made me different from all the other vintage vendors really made a difference. And that really made a difference when we opened up our storefront, because now, you know, we're known in town for like having this specific selection. So it helped us stand out. So as soon as I kind of figured that out, I filled my own need, but then it just became kind of like part of the marketing.
Yeah, and I think we've always naturally let each other play to our own strengths. So that's how kind of we decided like who's going to play what role in the shop, and like, you know, just in general with what we do, and we just kind of supported each other with that. So like Maria is really amazing at marketing and like social media strategy and all this stuff. She's always reading about it and like always learning. And I just love to buy, and I love to be out there, and I love to like work, and like I love being in the shop and basically maintaining like the setup of the store and deciding like all the merchandising for that kind of thing. And
yeah, I mean, I think, you know, there's a lot of people that seem to work all by themselves, and I don't know how they can work by themselves. I mean, that's incredible when people do everything. You know, I love having a partner because, I do the parts I love, she does the parts she loves, and there's a couple things both of us don't enjoy, but we but we do those. But for the most part, 90% of what I do every day is just fun.
Yeah.
Okay, now this is the kind of the People magazine part of the episode. When we first started talking, you know, back a couple of years ago, you guys were together.
Yeah.
Now you're just now you guys are just business partners, right?
Yeah.
So people are wondering how is that possible? I mean, we don't got to get into big detail, but how did you go from being, you know, like a couple and business partners to just business partners? Like, was there ever danger that was going to all blow up?
No, I think that what really works for us is that we both have a really long-term goal for what we want Passport to be as a business. So we kind of knew that we can't do this alone. Like you said, like it's not like it can be just one person. I mean, it would be very difficult because Brian has his strengths and I have mine.
Yeah.
So we've always known that, you know, as the business grows, like it can take many shapes and forms. So it's not, we both own it. So we always like respected that.
Oh, I was just going to say, you know, we both have just put so much into this that we also like had that respect for each other. You know, we have each put so much of our life into this business that it would be unfair to try to take that away from one or the other.
You guys are like super adults. There would be a lot of people that would not be like that. They would be like, we're going to blow this up because I hate you, you know.
I just couldn't. I mean, I feel like, you know, we built this up from like blood, sweat, and tears, and I just can't imagine like blowing it up.
Yeah.
That would destroy my whole life.
Yeah. I mean, did you guys when you started all this? I mean, is all this in paperwork? I mean, is this all on contracts, or are you guys just being real friendly? And
we have. I mean, as the business grew, like we were sole proprietors, and then we became an LLC. Which is like crazy.
Yeah, right.
So we have like ownership contracts and all of that stuff now. So yeah, it's all paperwork. Yeah. But obviously,
keeping things together. So like that's just kind of, you know, us talking and mutually agreeing like this is how it's going to go.
That warms my heart that you guys are still working together and respecting each other, and That's awesome.
Thank you.
Okay, so because you guys worked for American Apparel, and that's kind of a good example of like, kind of a kooky founder who like starts a fun idea and then it becomes like this global empire and then it just all kind of blows up. What do you guys want to do with Passport Vintage? Is it just kind of staying where you are? Is it having more stores? Like, what's the idea?
So I think right now we're trying to decide where we want to go with it. We definitely love Texas and there's like a lot of opportunities. So we could open stores in other cities like Houston, Dallas, or San Antonio. There's like room for that where it wouldn't be too expensive to do that because it's, Texas.
Sure.
But we're not sure if we want to move in that direction of just like growing as a vintage shop or if we want to manufacture our own clothes and move in that direction. So we're just trying to feel it out and go from there.
That's a pretty big deal. You guys are talking about possibly making it your own clothes? Like, how would that work?
That's kind of just like an idea we're tossing around.
Yeah.
I think it's because with social media, we've really turned Passport into a brand. Like, I feel like that's where we went from just being and having the store as well. Like, that's all of that has been where we've gone from just being resellers on Etsy to being a brand. Mm-hmm. And, we have like totes and Passport Vintage tees, like, and all of that right now. And we sell those, we just get them screen printed locally here in Austin. And we sell those pretty well and kind of expanding on that idea of doing more of that and just and also Maria last year she worked with this maker in LA and designed a shoe that we were selling for Passport, and it was a Passport mule and that was doing really well. And so you kind of dabbled a little bit, so it's kind of just expanding on that, I guess it would be.
Yeah.
I love that idea. I mean, that's just like beyond what we've ever thought of about like starting our own brand and making clothes. But that sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah, so it wouldn't be like we try to do everything from a very cheap perspective. So it wouldn't be like we would spend a lot of money and develop things. So what we've worked on, which is what we learned from American Apparel, is if there's a vintage piece that's really popular, like say a vintage jacket, we look into the cost of recreating that jacket because we know it's already popular and we know it's already sells and we already have the template for it.
Now I understand. Now we're talking because Ryan and I have, we go out and we're scavenging and we're like, this is awesome. I wish someone made this. That makes a lot of sense.
That's what we talk about when we're like, we want to make our own clothes.
Yeah, because every once in a while, we keep stuff for ourselves a little bit, but sometimes we'll keep something and we're like, oh, this could be a future design.
Yeah.
We love this piece. Like, this is...
And, we all know this where designers will buy stuff from all of our thrift stores, and I'm sure they're just taking it and copying ideas and fabric.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. During South by, we had some larger brands come through that, like, they were buying for inspiration pieces. So they would just come through and they would buy a lot from our shop. Yep. And they didn't care about what brand it was, or they just wanted the style, like the vintage style and cuts of it, and or the colors to then just take back to
their manufacturing company. Yeah.
Is there anything you think we didn't talk about that we should go over?
I would say that I really encourage anyone who can do it cheaply to open a brick and mortar.
Yeah.
Really? That's so, I really feel like we finally kind of come through the other side. Like there was probably a long period where that would not have made sense. But I feel like retail stores have been so, crushed by the online world. There's so much cheap property now. I mean, maybe not in Austin, but definitely in other places. I love the idea of just basically renting out a storefront and using that as your eBay or Etsy warehouse.
Yeah.
And your workspace, and then just have people come in.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, thanks for talking to us today.
Yeah. Thank you so much,
Thank
Jay.
you.
Yeah. All right. See ya. Bye.
All right. Bye.